Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dwarven Tavern. I am still Dr. Jeff Goins, your host, and as promised, I am continuing the reviews. But first, and I'm sorry, I hate that when people say the most important thing is, but first, but I do want to, there is something that I wanted to share with you. I have my Patreon page up, it's in the description, and it's all about sharing the things that I want to share and things that I think would bring a little more joy to your gaming experience as it has to mine. It'll be the Patreon page will have tips and tricks and a number of other things, specifically things that I think have made my tenure, as it were. I was a college professor for a long time, so tenure immediately jumps to mind when I'm talking about these kind of things. But my tenure as a dungeon master has brought me all sorts of neat things that I found will work and some that don't, and I'm going to be putting those onto the Patreon page. So don't forget to check it out. Your patronage is more than appreciated. So this book is this is the latest thing that I've gotten from Paizo called Highhelm, and I thought it would be a really cool first look. I haven't read it much, but this is going to be kind of a reaction unboxing or opening of the book, and I thought it was fitting because it's all about dwarves and the sky citadels of dwarven architecture and engineering built at the end of centuries-long quest for sky. These massive fortresses provided far more than just safety, encompassing entire cities and fostering dwarven ingenuity. And as some of you may have guessed, I kind of like dwarves, right? And that's all from growing up as a shorter than average, stronger than average youngin, which was what embodied me. And then, of course, being short and strong gave rise to all sorts of experiences with bullies and their subsequent downfall, which was inevitable, right? Because I didn't put up with that. I didn't dance that dance. I helped them see the error of their ways in sometimes pretty cool ways. So Highhelm is it's a book about dwarves, and this let's see here. Highhelm in this cross or this side panel. Highhelm offers numerous possibilities for role playing as an adventuring site itself. The dwarven city of Highhelm is a truly unique setting with its underground locations and largely non-human population. The elements to craft clever urban campaign are all too present, from the intrigue that swirls around the centers of power to the conflicts that surface in the city's less fashionable quarters. And of course, I don't know any dwarves that would speak like that, unless he was like visiting dignitary from some uffish province. This volume provides plenty of adventure hooks and an entire cast of characters to support such an urban campaign. So this is an urban campaign, and here on page 8 is a wonderful illustration, as you can see, and it talks about the basically the 4 levels of Highhelm, which are frickin' enormous. So, and it all lies within a mountain. It's, of course, it's laid out in your typical very well organized Paizo fashion. They've got that down. They've got that. Actually, I don't know of many things that they don't do well. The only thing that I didn't like was the lack of in Starfinder, in the first iteration of the core rules, they didn't specify speeds and the science behind space travel. They just said you get there when you get there, and that's up to the narrator. And I didn't care for that much at all. But that's Starfinder. That's not Pathfinder, and that's not this book. So let's go back to what we're talking about. Beginning on page doodly doo. Okay, beginning on page 12. Okay, looks like we have the beginning of a sidebar timeline, which I think is very, very cool. Before the era of toil, which was in 5,293 years AR, which I'm assuming is short for something. Imagine that. Something reckoning. I've been out. I've been out of it for a while. If you haven't, anyways, it's like BC 5,295. And the timeline ends, well, it doesn't end, but it's current at 4,723 AR. So that's a total of about 10,000 years, almost 10,000 years, maybe more for that. I'm not going to add it up. I'm an English major, I've taught math classes, but I don't feel like it right now. And the timeline goes from the age of creation, when the dwarves first appear in the caverns of Narvoth. The age of legends, the prophets of Torag foretell the quest for sky. And then it begins with minus 5,293 AR. Earthfall devastates the surface of Galarian, which, as we know from other volumes of books, there was the Earthfall was this enormous cataclysm that left some marks, and then it goes all the way up to the Gilded Era, the Lonesome Era, the Era of Five Kings, the Wild Era, the Second Era of Toil, and then the Era of Hope. And so, which is kind of what we're in now. Actually, everybody is kind of in an era of hope, because we all hope things will get better, and even though they might not, but whatever. As long as we can play our games, we're hopeful, right? Then it goes into government, law, and crime, with the Highhelm government structure, and international relations, law enforcement, which is, it's important to know these things, right? The major industries of Highhelm, which is breather walls. To purify the air and produce oxygen underground, Highhelm's druid created a hardy, multicolored variety of lichen that could be grown on vertical screens and lattices in residential areas. So these porous living walls are known as breather walls. And, something like this would not be a bad idea to get for your own home. Because breathing is, I've always found that to be awesome and very useful for continued existence. Oxygen, brewing, grindle grubs. All organic waste in Highhelm is collected and deposited in the Grindlegrub pits. And there's on page 20, lovely illustration of Grindlegrub Rancher, which it looks like a big grub in the grubworm that you might find under your lawn, eating the roots of your grass. And so, it's generally bad, but these guys, they consume the waste and make they're actually, according to this, they're grown to maturity, and they are harvested as grubs before they hatch or metamorphose into the giant black flies that are too heavy to fly. Then they don't have much use, so they harvest them for their fat, and the fat is used to make candles, soap, and machine lubricants. So it's a very symbiotic, until they're harvested, relationship. They feed them waste, and they harvest their fat for very useful things. So it's like turning crap into, into motor oil, which is pretty cool. Mining over the centuries, of course, they mine, they smelt, they smith, they mason, and do trade throughout from the mountain to other points that need the stuff that they provide. Of course, that's how trade works. They have guilds and unions and markets and so forth. So subcultures and countercultures are covered, which you have the casteless, the delvers, the shield sworn, the winding path, so forth. Those are the cultures. It's got details on all that. I like the way it's presented because it has a very vigorous, instead of having two columns of text, it has a column of text on each page, and then a column of sidebars, which has things like other dwarves, the Highhelm slang, Dwarven schedules, the Guardian King, so forth. Just tidbits of information that aren't along the same lines as what the chapter's about, but it's within the same parameters of the chapter's subject. And it talks about religion and pastimes, glory ribbons, which dwarves are, let's see, with a Highhelm population of Holt Taxon, dwarves in Highhelm, it's unsurprising to see many residents sporting glory ribbons, bright strips of cloth typically pinned to darker clothing or tied to the end of a beard. Observant visitors might notice the glory ribbons in Highhelm have evolved to become visual representation of their wearers' accomplishments. So, as in any good society, Highhelm is a meritocracy, it would appear, which means that a person goes as far as they can based on their own merits and accomplishments, which is a good thing. It's wonderful to have that installed into a society where because have you ever noticed there are some people that are like super famous who have no talent whatsoever, right? And you wonder how they got there, and it's because of who they know or who they pay or how much money they started out with or whatever. And it just doesn't seem fair, because they really shouldn't be famous, and yet they are. And that's always mystified me. So it talks about the Highhelm castes, which is not what you get when you break an arm. You do get a Highhelm cast, but if you go to the doctor there and you break your leg, you get a cast. But this is different. This is cast with an E, and I'm not talking about E-cast. I'm talking about cast with an E on the end. And it goes over the casts: commerce, alchemy, military officers, the worthy crafts, and then it goes into the dwarf clans, which it's got a here beginning on page 32 and 33. There's the illustrations. Talks about clan Erengeld, clan Break Iron, clan Fire Cask, clan Gelderon, and so forth. And the names are, I don't know. Yeah, they're after Tolkien. After one reads Tolkien, one finds it difficult to look at other things like Break Iron. I think that's not one of the best names I've ever heard. I mean, like Thorin, Oakenshield, Runebinder, Stonefist. Those are a little cliche, I think, or whatever you want to call it. But so then we have a list of notable figures, and the illustration for this is really, really good. Like High King Borogrim the Hale, good name. I've always been a real stickler for good names, and if they're silly, like I played a module back in first edition that had he was a leader, a country's leader, and his name was Mikhail Gorchabov or Gorchabev, as opposed to And then another character in that same module's name was Kaplan Kirk. And I was like, man, this is really dumb. I don't like this at all. But clan leader Hinthe Erengeld, clan leader Gondon Breakiron. Okay, when you put it with another name, it sounds a little bit better, right? Perhillfire Cask is a female dwarven brewmaster, and she looks happy, which, getting to test your stuff. Clan leader Grytim Grimmark, and he's a leader of the Grimmark clan, but he's happy and jovial, so it's kind of an irony that his name is, or that he's the leader of the Grimmark clan, and he's all happy. Hanahar Ironfist, Onisha Mulgrade, Gesalem Oridus, and so forth. There's a whole bunch of clan leaders. So, and the illustrations are kind of video gamey looking for my taste, but there has been an apparent homogenation between tabletop role-playing and video games, since video games have become the prevalent source of entertainment for most gamers' needs these days. I still prefer the tabletop, but okay, so then we get into the Gazetteer and location type, support traits, the King's Crown, current event, really nice map here on page 48, which is decent. And it talks about the local flora and fauna in the sidebars, neighborhoods. It has a little bit about each of the locations, which is what you might expect from a Gazetteer. King's Crown options. It's got magical items like the Black King, which is a a +2 greater striking ashen blunderbuss. So that's pretty cool. Big old fluted barrel, as you can see there on page 58. The Furnace of Endings. The Liar's Board, which is a chess board. It's a clockwork game board, contains 6 hidden compartments that can be opened by moving the game pieces in specific preset patterns. So that's pretty cool. Overall, I find that these items are actually pretty clever and inventive. I like original, and I like creativity. Then it's got the King's Heart there on page 62. The people therein. Lucky Larry's, or is it Larry? Lucky Larry's Bar and Gambling Hall. Lucky Larry's, come down and see us. What it sounds like. Silver Stalls, the Long Hall, Forge at 9, Stonefist Hall, and so forth. All those critical locations. New spells from King's Heart. Then it's got Stone Breach and the map thereof on page 76. And all of those location specifics, which goes over, including the Stone Breach options, which has some new magical items, grub gloves, words of wisdom tattooed on your back. It should say never get a tattoo you can't read, unless it's backwards and you can see it in the mirror. Then it goes on a couple other locations. An overland map of the Five Kings Mountains. All of the characters are pretty cool. Of course, the illustrations are great. I really like the illustrations. They're not overboard with any one illustrator. It looks like they have some really nice gods and goddesses, deities. Trud, which is very cool. The Dwarven pantheon that they have is inventive and cool. Seems to be fitting. Then they've got some monsters, Highhelm animals. They have a beast of burden called the Ogdunar, the draft lizard, which is a lizard that does not serve beer. It actually is like a draft horse, only it is not a horse, it is a lizard, and that's why they call it the draft lizard. So this gets an A for logic. Then there's the Blades, the Bloodstorm, which is it looks like a monster driven by animal instincts. It's kind of like a shambling mound with mantis claws. Photophobia, which is it looks like a grig with a turtle shell on its head, a built-in helmet. No, Grawl. Growls are it's a Grawl. It's not a photophobia. It has photophobia. That was the sidebar. They ate the six-legged pagulin, which is a lizard. And then it goes on to the glossary and index, which it has a pretty comprehensive list of terms and the explanations thereof. Very cool. And then in the back of the book, it would appear that we've been given the gift of cartography, mappery, if you will, or the the outlining. And here I go unfolding a map again, right? I was just looking at my videos, my past videos, and looking at all the outright trouble that I've had with these maps. Oh, I see. Okay. So, here's the map. Here is the maps of the various areas. As you can see, there are 6 good maps, and I think that's really cool that they did this. So you can hang it up as a poster, or you can, looks like you would be able to cut it, which don't cut up book stuff in front of me because I lose my mind. I still have a new math book from I think it's 18, where is that book? It's over there. But it's from like 1801 or is it 1880, 89? I don't know. It's been a while since I've looked at it because I don't care about math all that much. That's not really true. I do like math when it's on a calculator. But I take care of my books, and they are precious to me. So this goes for $44.99 at your better retailers, I would think, and it's called Lost Omens Highhelm. It's set in the Lost Omens world, but I'm sure you could apply this place to your own world if you wanted to add it or whatever. I tend to try and keep my worlds together and organized. So yeah, I give it a big thumbs up. It'll be 5 axes from me, which I think is fitting because I love dwarves. And if this disappointed me, because it's dwarves, it's like, really liking ice cream and getting crappy ice cream. It's actually worse because you love it so much, or seeing a movie that you wanted to see, and they really screw it up, which has been happening a lot lately, and it's even more disappointing. So this didn't disappoint me. It's a nice book for dwarf enthusiasts to make your realms a little bit brighter. Plus, it can give you ideas for your own. If you have your own world and you want to have dwarven kingdoms in it, this is a great set of guidelines. So definitely 5 axes. It's a good utility. And so yeah, it's very cool, very cool. I'm glad I have it, and you should probably have it too. So with that being said, on behalf of don't forget to look up my Patreon. It'll be in the description down below, and leave me comments on what you would like to see. What you would like to see in a Patreon, or even because the YouTube channel is going to be primarily used for reviews, and then the tips and tricks and other things that I've got going on. Like right now, I'm working on a video on the evils of metagaming, which I don't care for at all, and I'll explain all of that in the Patreon and the video there. But yeah, let me know what you think. You guys were all super supportive and wonderful about welcoming me back to my gig here, and let me know just how much you guys really care about the things that I have to put out there, and that just meant the world to me. It really does. You're all wonderful, and I love you. So with that being said, on behalf of the entire cast and crew of the Dwarven Tavern, we wish for you to want for nothing but adventure, and at first I feared it, then I charged. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.